Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torres. If this is the first time you tune in this podcast, we speak with the top voices of the consumer goods and retail industries. We are now over 160 episodes in, so do go into our website or your favorite podcast platform to entertain yourself and be educated with some of the industry's top voices. Remember, we are part of a family of podcasts which is headed by the CPG guys in the US. We recommend you tune into their show where Brian, Shri, and Peter speak about the omni-channel world in the US at the other side of the pond. Also, if you haven't yet, remember to follow us on LinkedIn, where you'll be joining a community of 15,000 members and counting. And you can also now find us on Instagram, where you'll find our latest and upcoming content. And yes, obviously, I'm not alone here. I have a very special guest with us here. His name is Alex Graf. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Spryker. He's a multi-podcaster, so I'll ask him more about that in a minute. And he's never been on a Forbes list. So Alex, thanks for joining me here live in my office in Barcelona. How are you?
Good. Cannot be better with this kind of weather and sun in Barcelona, to be very honest. Thank you for the invitation.
Not at all. And you were telling me that you live in the north of Germany. How was the weather there compared to here?
As good as here, to be very honest.
Wow.
We only have some weather issues now in the south of Germany with the floods. But it was like Barcelonesque in close to the Baltic Sea where I'm living. People were sitting on the beach drinking Aperol Spritz.
Not a bad plan.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's not as nice as in Barcelona, but it's really good.
Not bad. And sure, the beaches were less crowded as well, right? So.
No. In northern Germany, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody lives there anymore.
Yeah. So Alex, you're very, for whoever doesn't know you in the industry, you're very well known. You, apart from your role at Spryker, which we'll obviously talk about, we were talking before you do like a lot of podcasts. You mentioned you have 5 podcasts. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Because I think if anyone wants to follow you.
Yeah, so obviously I started like many other people 16 years ago with a blog because there was no podcast world in 2008 and the blog was what today is a podcast, I would say.
Yeah.
And this evolved into a podcast 10 years ago when I learned that uploaded YouTube videos with interviews is not an interesting thing for my audience, a podcast is. And then I started like another show, and this show was called Kassenzone, like a weekly show with CEOs and founders and owners of big brands or manufacturers or retailers in the German-speaking market. And then I started also a side show with another e-commerce influencer, I would say, in the market where we are like talking once a month about what happened in the industry. So not just one particular case, but like industry updates. And a couple of years ago, we started the same show with the name Commerce Talks for international markets, because I learned that the problems we might have in our CPG world or retail world in Germany are very different from the problems the Swedish retailers have, or the retailers in Dubai have, or the retailers in Poland or Brazil have. And with our business with Spryker, we have access to those people, we have access to those markets, and for me, it's a learning tool. For me, it's kind of an opportunity to sit together with like the CMO of a big automotive company in Brazil and talk about how do you sell cars here? Is Amazon kind of a thing? How is your retail model working? And I'm learning with this. 2 years ago then, during the Ukraine war, like many conversations were moving into like the energy question. So how expensive will it be like to buy energy in the future? And our businesses we work with like are very energy heavy businesses producing stuff. And then I learned all the things I can learn about like renewable energy and energy trade in the media is kind of biased. And then I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to do the same with like the podcast. I'm just asking people from the energy sector, the biggest solar park owners, wind park owners, nuclear power plant lobbyists. How does it work? Is it really true how cheap our nuclear power? Or what is like the future of the energy sector in Germany? And this is now the leading energy podcast too in Germany with weekly shows. With weekly shows. Yeah, and I have a very, very cool co-host who's from the energy sector. But I'm very knowledgeable what grid management in Europe and all this kind of power stuff is going on. And 3 weeks ago, I started a new one, not my own, but over the last 10 years with Kassenzone, I had a couple of like guests related to the health sector, like clinics and stuff. And that's actually where my wife, she's a pediatrician, is active. And this sector is kind of broken in Germany. And it's said, okay, in order to help this kind of sector, we need to have like weekly shows with decision makers from this industry. It's called Gesundheitszone, Health Zone. It's all the same frame, more or less. And this is now done by my wife with another pediatrician, and they are talking about what the broken things in the health. In the health industry. So it's a very podcast-heavy life, but it's not my core business. My core business and what I'm paid for is Spryker.
Yeah, I think you should do another podcast about time management, because I don't know how you juggle with all these things.
No, because I think many people get like time management wrong. It's not about what to do. It's about what not to do. So, and living on a farm obviously prevent you from doing a lot of things that don't create too much value. Right?
Yeah.
So, because you can really focus on stuff.
You mean like all the temptations that you have when you step out of this door in Barcelona?
There's no coffee. You can go out and get a bocadillo or whatever. That's actually the trick behind it.
There you go. So we'll actually leave the links to your podcast on the digital liner notes. So if you're interested in learning more, we recommend you tune in. Actually, it's good also to have like I don't see other podcasts as competition. I kind of see
of course not.
All tides rise the sea.
Yeah, true. And we refer to each other. We share the audience.
Exactly. And I think what we do and what you do is very complementary as well.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about, so this is your podcasting role, which is not your main occupation. So you're the co-founder and co-CEO of Spryker. Tell us a bit about how that, maybe even how it started and what you guys do.
Yeah, so Spryker started 10 years ago. I had a couple of like agencies started before, so B2B businesses, services businesses. Spryker is actually my 25th company I've started. And 10 years ago, with our agency business, we were approached by like many of our customers and prospects telling us, hey, we'd like to be as agile as Zalando or as Zappos or as ASOS. So what can we do? And we were an agency focusing on SAP Hybris and Shopware back at the time and said, okay, but if you really want to be like a leader from a UX perspective, if you want to differentiate yourself by like better UX, by better filter mechanisms, whatever, you need to own the tech. You need to take control. Yeah. And the technologies we provide, they don't let you take control. We just curate them for you. So you have to go back, hire 200 developers like Zalando did, and good luck. It's obviously not a convenient answer for many companies. And that's when we found a good partner to start with, which is Project A in Berlin. They were responsible for building hundreds of very big e-commerce business models globally, from HelloFresh and the former role Dafiti in Brazil, Lumio, many. And this technology was already like there, already like composable kind of idea behind it, front end, back end, decoupled. Really, it's kind of this kind of Lego Technic toolkit idea they had. And then we approached them and said, okay, let's take this technology, let's build a product out of it so others can use it. And that's how Spryker started. We thought this is a cool technology for product-led tech organization that don't want to go away from Magento or whatever. But actually it evolved more like in a technology for very big corporates, especially FMCG or B2B corporates with complex business models. Because the more complex your business model is, the more complex your workflow is, the harder it is to adapt standard software like SAP or Salesforce. And that's actually where we moved into the market. This kind of standard software is an okay approach as long as you're not differentiating with like technology from the market. And it's okay as long as the e-commerce or digital channels are small, 1%, 2%, 3%. Then you don't want to be responsible for tech and updates and all this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But like the moment you're like reaching 10% and becomes like a major part of your business, and you are like blocked by technology that you cannot roll out into another market, that you cannot expand your business model, that you cannot move from B2C to B2B or into marketplace where everybody's moving now, then you need to think what to do next. And there we are actually right now. The market is like changing, that many companies have learned they want to get away from like the old vendors, the suite vendors, or like the monolithic vendors.
Which is like kind of like one solution.
All in one block. Yeah. It's essentially Salesforce, it's SAP, it's Oracle, it's IBM. It's not bad. It's just like it's a one-fits-all approach, right? And which became very expensive over the last years. And that's where some composable vendors like we are moving in now and taking over market share.
Because, that's the thing. I think that what you guys do is composable commerce. How would you define, like at a very basic level, composable commerce? Because for a lot of people that are not in the e-commerce scene, and even people in the e-commerce scene are not that aware of what composable commerce is.
Yeah, but to be very honest, though, we are here. I think we can tell the audience that today is Shoptalks in Barcelona, and I was yesterday visiting all the different booths at the Shoptalks, and there's like booths from, I don't know, conversion optimization providers, email marketing, whatever. If you would like erase the logo of those providers and like put the SAP logo, or the Spryker logo, or the Akeneo logo on top, it's all the same. It's all saying API first, time to market, composable. So our industry had made actually a very, very bad job
in standardizing the name.
Yeah, no. In overall explaining what our products are doing, what the difference is, because everybody's like jumping on the latest train. Now composability seems to be like the latest train. Everybody's jumping. Even like the old platforms like SAP and Salesforce are jumping on this. Also, they are exactly the opposite of it. But like for users, for the companies, it's very hard to differentiate. So essentially, like the idea of composability is that you can like pick the best parts of a software and adjust them as you want. So I think this kind of Lego Technik picture is still right. So you have like different parts,
like a Lego.
Yeah, and you can put them together, but you don't need to take all parts. And how you build it, how you connect it, what you build, that's on you. So you can just use it. And some composability standards just make sure that if you're adding a part from another provider, that they kind of fit, right? And the old world is kind of a Playmobil world where it's very hard to change the door of a car or to change the color or whatever. Or like you still can change it. You just take a little saw and take some glue and glue something on top of it.
Historically, if you were with one of the big guys like SAP, Oracle, etc., that meant that you couldn't change like small parts.
You can always change, but it gets very expensive and it really slows you down. It's not really scalable. And I think it's the big advantage of composability is that you're, as a company, you're the one in power now. You're like the product manager of your own product. You can do whatever you want. But that's also the biggest risk, because many companies don't have the people to define what we want. It's very easy to say we want to be like Zalando.
Yeah.
And if you sit them together and say, okay, let's define now your workflow. Yeah. What do you want to do? What do you want the user to see? What should happen if he's clicking on this product? How should the associated product should be calculated? With what system? Let's take a look behind this first PowerPoint slide. Then actually this kind of skill set is in many companies is not available. So it's really hard for people to do this. It's kind of what you would have learned in an incubator, like sitting on like a whiteboard and start defining things. So how should the workflow, I'd like to have every order above $1,000 from like not yet registered customers vetted through our service center. Automated or like with a person behind it. If the order comes from, I don't know, Eastern European countries, I want my service center to take a call. Maybe there's some upselling potential, some fraud verification potential. If everything is checked, it goes back And then I only want them to be able to pay with payment method A, B, and C. So you need to define all the stuff. And this is the beauty of product management.
Yeah, but
this is also labor.
It's labor
right?
intensive.
It's labor.
You mentioned like that companies and I know it's just an example that want to be like Zalando.
Yeah.
What's the for composable commerce? What's the case in FMCG where the direct to consumer is is really like marginal, and it's more about like account management and so on? Is there what's the case of composable commerce?
I would not agree here 100%, because obviously a couple of years ago, when this kind of direct to consumer e-commerce discussion started, FMCG, it was all about should we have like an online shop now for cucumbers and tomatoes
and M&M.
So most of the FMCG cases we are working on with our customer base is B2B cases. How do you get orders in more efficient? How do you connect your stores efficient? How do you connect corner stores? How can you build the platform when you have access to corner stores or tienditas in some countries? How can you help other CPG companies to sell through your system to get in platform? So this is a much bigger part. I think that's where 95% right now in FMCG world are going, because, and you know this discussion better than I am doing so, FMCG had like a very, very big problem with the channel conflict stuff. They just were not allowed, or they were afraid to sell directly. What changed the last 2 or 3 years were like two main things. So 5 years ago, we saw the rise of Picnic in Europe, which is now a $1 billion+ company, food delivery company, grocery delivery company in the Netherlands and Germany. From the southern part of Germany, we have Knusper, which is the part of the Rodik group, Czech company, also like $1 billion company already, that is really efficient in delivering groceries, your daily grocery, your weekly grocery basket, profitable to your house with low price guarantees. This was not possible before. So this is changing the market, and obviously this kind of ultra fast delivery services. Some went out of the market with Gorillas and Getir. Some are taking over, like Wolt, for example. This is also changing the market, because once the customer is adapted to those new delivery services, and that's what we see in Holland, for example, they're sticking to those. And it's usually the high-income customers that get sticky first in the urban areas of the country. In the Netherlands, Picnic might have over somewhere between 5 to 10% market share. So every 10th supermarket is rendered useless already.
Wow.
And this is because the business model is just superior. The delivery model is superior. It's hard to imagine for people, because then people like here in Barcelona look outside and they're going to say to me, Alex, here, that's not going to be possible. Look at the supermarket there. Look at the grandma over there. She's like picking the coffee. It's like part of the lifestyle. It's not true. If you look at the data, this is really changing. And this is actually where FMCG retailers do reconsider their position on e-commerce, direct-to-consumer e-commerce. Obviously, they spend a lot of time thinking about click and collect and whatever omnichannel kind of things. But this is happening on the direct-to-consumer side, which is, from my perception, maybe 5 to 10% of all the investment in the market, and the rest is all B2B. The rest is all like back-end automation, more efficient delivery, because on the automation side in the European markets, there's a super high pressure because there's just no workers anymore. It's a case in every country, and it's getting ugly in the next years, especially in Germany. So you have to automate everything you can automate, everything where you still have like people typing in an order from a paper order form into like a computer, and this is then printed. And
we have no workers in an economy that's not growing, which is like a new scenario.
Yes, and obviously with less workers, adding less GDP value, the economy will shrink, right? So it's like and that's a problem we are seeing already. People try to deny it, but it's like. But this obviously, if you're like smart as a business, you automate everything. Just try to rely less on manual labor. And automation starts with good data management and workflow management. So everything where where's no contact with the product really needed, where you like move a product from A to B, or contact with a customer needed, like for cash management or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to automate.
Yeah.
You have to automate. There's no alternative.
Yeah. And by the way, Spryker now, like you started it, what, 9-10 years ago, right?
10. Exactly 10, yes.
Happy 10th birthday.
Thank you.
How big are you now?
So in terms of employees, somewhere 400 to 500 employees, depending how you count and calculate. Core markets are Europe and the US. But we are ranked fairly high at all the analysts reports. So we're getting demand like from everywhere in the world. Obviously, if you want to do like an FMCG project, even in India, and you need to select software, you will somehow come across Spryker, and then we're going to start the conversation. That's where we are.
Yeah. It's a solution that's not necessarily geographically bound to one place or the other.
Not geographically bound, and it's rather industry agnostic, although focuses more on the B2B side. Also, even on the B2B side for retail and FMCG businesses, because that's where we see more, we call it sophisticated business cases. Others would say it's like complex business cases, but whenever it's not easy to solve, then Spryker is usually a very good fit.
Okay, cool. So wanted to ask you as well, so we're talking a little about e-commerce, the current context in Europe. I think the US is kind of parallel. Would you compare it like?
So maybe we have to go sector by sector. So FMCG sector, obviously e-commerce is still in the lower percentage range. Germany maybe 2 to 3% of like a $250 billion market. So huge opportunity. All the other sectors like fashion, furniture, sportswear, consumer electronics are way ahead already. Accessoires for consumer electronics, it's maybe 80% already online trade. Very hard to measure actually, because if you look behind how those statistics are made, it's a lot of like presumptions going on.
Yeah.
And we are seeing more or less the same picture in the US market. We see more advanced business models, I believe, in Europe, because there's in the US there was kind of this Amazon effect. You don't see like category killers a lot. Even fashion is bought on Amazon. In Europe, you have like in every country some market leaders. You have Zalando, for example, and About You, like for fashion. In Germany, you have Allegro in Poland. You have Bo.com in the Netherlands. The Amazon effect in the Nordics is very low. So there was just more competition in the markets, and therefore more advanced business models. And in the access to cheap workers, especially in the Central European countries, was never there, which was a bit different in the gig economy in the US. So in the US, you still can hire workers for $2 or $3 an hour. It's loud, and people are working for this money, and just have like the Uber app, the Instacart app, and whatever. They're working for like the next best dollar, which actually lowered the pressure on automation and smart business models in the US. And now actually the market is moving to China when it comes to like smart business models. But I think it's more or less on par. I see like a very big gap if we're moving eastwards. So I'm very active in the Middle East region, in Dubai and Saudi, and in India. Obviously, there we are seeing still gaps. So, or like North Africa, for example, the MENA region. But yeah, if you're looking here at the Shoptalk conference, for example, coming back to this, many people visiting the Shoptalk Barcelona are usually located in the US. So it's kind of the same market is like moving, same people are moving with the markets.
And what about China? Because China, it just seems to be a different world. No, even if you compare it to its neighboring countries, it's like done its own thing.
Yeah, so for me, I created a quote last year at the biggest e-commerce conference in Germany saying Zalando feels like Karstadt without staircases, right? Or like cutting glass without staircases.
So Karstadt, for whoever doesn't know it, is a big German classic department store.
Yeah, and for me it feels so, Zalando was kind of the business model. Actually, it was kind of a founding reason also for Spryker, the business model everybody was aiming for, right? And now having business models like Temu, Shein moving into the market and like getting into billions of dollars of revenue. It was unbelievable. And some of the Chinese companies are not even here yet. So I don't know, have you looked into TikTok Shop China?
No, I haven't. No.
What is your best guess? What do you think? So TikTok Shop started their e-commerce business. It's called Douyin in China 6 years ago. And they're actually running their own warehouses. You can buy over the TikTok or Douyin app.
6 years they've been running over.
6 years. They are mainly active in China, a bit on the Philippines and other countries, but 95% is China. What do you think was their GMV in 2023?
The GMV is the...
That is the gross merchandising value. So it's not included advertisement, like that's ByteDance ad revenue. It's just like the value of the product sold over the platform overall.
In 2016?
2023.
And 2023?
1 year. What's your best guess?
No, 4 billion?
4 billion, okay. Almost 300 billion.
Oh my God.
So this is a size. And
TikTok, only TikTok.
Only Douyin. This is TikTok Shop, yes. So this is like the momentum we are talking about. And what's interesting for me is like, obviously, until like 2 years ago, my world was perfectly clear. So I thought like the retail triangle, which is like price, availability, and assortment. That was kind of a done deal by Amazon because they figured it out. They were usually leading in price, definitely leading in assortment, and 100% leading in availability, right? And like my assumption was, if there was a company that wants to beat Amazon, it needs to beat them on all 3 KPIs. Super hard to do. But now the Chinese companies are coming and saying, okay, we are taking availability away. We are exchanging it with like available like in 10 days. But we are reducing the price by 60% because we don't need the very expensive supply chain model where we store products in a warehouse in Barcelona so you can get it next day. And it's only produced if it's really consumed by the customer. So all this kind of very expensive logistics is not necessary anymore. And we don't need people doing product text translations. It's sold directly by the manufacturers. So though they can take like 70% of the price away, sometimes 20%, often 70%. And now we have like the new triangle is now a line. It's like assortment and price. And people are saying, I can wait for most of the products. I can wait. And if you're looking around here in your office, everything you can move, a part of the furniture is from China. Everything. This, all is from China, southern China. That's like the production house of our world. And this is so crazy because obviously, if we were asking our peer group, hey, do you shop on Temu? Do you trust it, Shein? No, it's not good quality. We were getting the impression that it's not working. You know, it's kind of the next wish. If you look in the data, over 30% of all households in Europe have already bought at Temu. Almost 40% in the US. In Europe, Temu is now heading to 80 million active customers. Wow. 80 million within 1 year. And this actually moved me into throwing away my old e-commerce book. I wrote an e-commerce book 10 years ago. And now I've published a new book, which is called Winning in the Platform Economy, because the rules are changed. It's different now. So all the let's say strategic advices we would have given like 2 or 3 years ago, how to become the next Amazon, are also rendered useless because now I have to ask Amazon, for example, what do you need this very expensive warehouse infrastructure, which is super expensive to build, to run, to heat, to fill stuff, when there's somebody, a manufacturer in China that can give me the same product, the same bottle, like the screen here, for only 50% of the price. Yeah, then they would say the same as like the omnichannel liars. They would say, the omnichannel liars were people want to have like multiple touch points. They want to buy in store and like give it back online, which was always a lie. And now the warehouse liars are going to say, yeah, but people want to have the product the same day, same hour, next day. And say, it's true. If you can compete on the price with China, no, that we can't do. We can't do. But people want to have the fast delivery experience. So, and this is happening all within like 1 year. So my whole like golden retail triangle world is kind of crushing now.
Well, but but that doesn't mean that when you wrote it wasn't true. It was, right? But it's just like the paradigm has changed.
That's obviously one of the learnings, that there's no long-term strategy. So the one who can adapt the fastest is usually winning. So to market environment changes or like to customer choice changes, it's obviously, so the traditional companies had a very hard time to update their model into the e-commerce world. And you've been around for a couple of years now in this market, and it's not easy for them even yet. And now we're saying, this whole world of where you buy your customer at Google and then convert them into like your slot machine, your online shop, which is actually what the industry came up with, like just optimized online shops. It's not an engagement engine. It's not like TikTok. It's not like Shein. It's not like Temu, where like in the app spending a lot of minutes and just scrolling down. It's like we are in going back to Shoptalks, like the boosts you're seeing are optimized for a world where traffic sits at Meta or Google. Then you're buying this traffic somehow, have them advanced analytics tools trying to convert this traffic with your slot machine. So people are typing something in your slot machine, a keyword, and then like with hundreds of filters, you try to narrow down the choice, and then somebody should buy. And then there's like 10 payment providers waiting in the checkout, offering you the services. That is the world we were optimized for, and this world is now crushed.
So, and when you think of like a lot of the audience on the show is from FMCG brands, we have followers: Henkel, Procter, Unilever, Mars, Reckitt, you name it. Like this whole change of paradigm with Temu coming in and taking all this, because you can't buy these brands on Temu.
We are still,
as far as I'm concerned.
So obviously, what we have to look at first is Shein is only active outside of China, but obviously the Temu mother, Pinduoduo, is very active in China, and it's the biggest retailer of luxury goods already. So even like very, very expensive Apple products. Food is like a big category on Pinduoduo in China. So it's working there already. So they started as a from farm to fork business model 10 years ago, or 8 years ago. What we're seeing right now still is denial. It's eventually, that's actually where people are still saying, no, that's not true for my business. And I see still a good growth in pet food online because people are having more pets in the household, blah, blah, blah. And my pet food quality is so much better. And it's not shippable from China because it's too heavy. This kind of discussions you have. It's like the same you would have like 10 years ago with courting glass with the staircases. They updated like the staircase layout into like wooden staircases and like better lighting, and say, okay, no online shop can beat the staircase experience. And
is that a true story?
It's a true story for KaDeWe in Berlin, which is like the luxury department store in Germany. They have invested in wooden staircases, but
which is nice, but obviously
it's nice. But but then though the same way we were then sitting in an audience and listening to people saying this, which is like still pure denial because they don't have an answer. We still see right now in the CPG and FMCG world, they are not hidden. They are not impacted yet because obviously food, groceries, kind of a different business model where availability is actually an important KPI. You want to have it like tomorrow. You don't want to wait for your tomatoes like 2 weeks. Maybe dry food is a different thing, but
in general,
it's like that's. I think FMCG food specifically is not impacted, but if you're looking at the very German kind of drugstore setup, like
which is like laundry, personal care.
And especially this some of this non-food personal care stuff. Let's say a makeup set where you have like 10. What is it called? Where you like put your makeup on top,
like the routine.
No, like let's say you have like a makeup accessoire kit. Costs you like $10 at DM. Or like at Rossmann. And then you go to Temu, you're getting like 10 of those packs for $10. Then $10 seemed cheap before, right? But now you think, only the rich guys are buying stuff at Rossmann anymore. And that's like still an important category. But I guess they can adapt fast. So I love the German drugstore model. I think it's not really available here.
It is. So we had here the classic Schlecker, which was the leader in Germany that disappeared. That would be an interesting podcast to do as well. So Schlecker now is called Clarel, and it's the same drugstore model. You also have independents. And Rossmann recently opened a store here.
Where?
In Barcelona. Yeah.
You like it?
I haven't been yet. Okay. It's on my to-do list, actually. I think it's like 1,000 square meters or something like that.
Yeah.
So quite a big store,
But the people from outside of Germany working for Spryker coming to Berlin, when I ask them about their drugstore experience, they say they love it. They really want to have a drugstore in their cities and countries.
Yeah.
Because it's a superior experience.
Yeah, it's very cool as well. I mean, the experience that you have when you go to DM especially is really, really good.
Yes.
I heard that DM is like the most popular brand in Germany, like ahead of like the big car manufacturers and everything. So
that might have been like a message in a press release from DM, but I would doubt it.
But even there's a conversation around that. I mean, I think it's quite.
It's a love brand for many. Yeah, it is.
It's a drugstore.
My daughter also 100% prefers DM over Rossmann. Yes,
there you go.
It looks more modern and for the kids, actually, my daughter is like 11 years old. If they can choose, like, if you can give them like a voucher for Amazon versus I don't know, H&M or DM, 100% pick the DM voucher. They can spend like 1, 2, 3 hours there.
Wow,
yeah,
incredible. So if people in our audience don't know about DM, they should definitely next visit to Germany and Central Europe.
Yeah,
they should check the store. So what can FMCG companies do in this context that you're describing?
So FMCG companies we have to define, are we talking retailers or are we talking manufacturers? Obviously, they need to figure out what's going to be their position in that game. Because if you're looking at the business models, even DM is pushing or Picnic are pushing, they are moving away from being responsible for the product risk anymore. They're just providing a platform like Instacart in the US, and then they're charging money from the FMCG companies like media platforms. And then, for example,
retail media.
But if you're looking, for example, at the numbers of Instacart in the US that were published during the IPO, the average order there was like $103 or $110, and the overall business was not profitable really. So they had like only 1.6% profitability, and the major part of this profitability came out of retail media. On every order there was like a $3 tax, I would say, for the FMCG companies. So the Henkels and Unilevers of this world paid like for a $100 order, paid always like $3. That's actually where the money will go. And those platforms will become very influential because it's a very tiny screen. It's going to be all like managed by your former order history in the Instacart app or in the Picnic app. And whatever shows up on top, if you're like looking for chocolate or something, you will buy. That's a very narrow kind of field which you have to buy access via marketing money. So marketing money is definitely moving away from Meta and Google into this world. But still, if you're looking at manufacturers not from the FMCG world, at Amazon, they are already squeezed out 100% out of their margin, and you cannot get out of this prison anymore. It's a prisoner's dilemma, right? It's like game theory, and we have to decide today if you're accepting your face in the platform prison. Do you want to be like a smart prisoner, or you want to create your own prison?
And you are a prisoner regardless.
No, not though. In the prisoner's dilemma, there's a couple of strategies how you can solve it. If you are in the prison already, because your product category is already moved into the prison, and then the only choice is to be a smart prisoner. But the smartest choice is to stay out as long as you can. Right? So, and this is actually now it's a decisive moment for FMCG industry because you cannot see it yet in the numbers because it's too small, so it has not really CEO attention in most of those company. But you need to start figuring out now what's your answer. So how do you want to play and run it? So the FMCG retailer Edeka's answer is buying shares in Picnic. Let their answer actually of this kind of business model. That's how they're going to participate in the future. Is it a smart answer to come up with your own delivery app? Maybe if you're really big, a category leader like DM in Germany, then they're focusing on click and collect. So you can just pick up your pre-packed orders in the store. I'm not a big believer in click and collect because I don't think that's a smart experience. Logistics will get more expensive in the future because logistics drivers are like a scarce resource. Automation is not really around the corner when it comes to last mile delivery. So I don't see too many robots running around here in Barcelona in the next like 10 years. It's going to be very manual kind of business. So it's going to be tough. So right now, retailers that actually waited and did not invest too much last 10 years were on the winning side, because many people just burn money in this market to figure out how to get to the consumer.
Wow.
It's changing.
Counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's changing now. So because like market shares, like for online in the FMCG business is growing. Platforms are harvesting like the profits and returns. Nobody wants to have the product risk anymore. Having products presented in very expensive shelves in retail stores seems to be a very outdated model, to be very honest. It's going to be very, very expensive to present your orange juice in a shelf at a retailer. If you see how much it costs to transport this orange juice, like from a distribution warehouse to a regional warehouse, from regional warehouse into the store, from the store pallet into the shelf, and then the customer comes and picks it out. So this added a lot of cost. So to be very honest, I cannot imagine it's going to be like the future of how FMCG is traded. And now we have a couple of proven business models on a global level. Instacart is one, Picnic is one, Knusper is one. Some of the ultra-fast delivery services prove that 7 minutes from order to delivery is a nice USP, but nobody's willing to pay for. Very few people are willing to pay for, which you can maybe do in cities like Monaco or Dubai or so, but not really in Barcelona or Berlin. But it's very interesting times. And main advice is that retailers and FMCG companies should not spend like too much effort in this omni-channel click and collect idea, which is presented at the conference today here in Barcelona, I have to say.
Yeah, you mentioned before that, how did you put it? That omni-channel is a dream that doesn't really, is not really. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I'm active in this market now for almost 20 years. And omnichannel was always the answer from failing retail models when I was asking, okay, so how are you going to change? How are you going to adapt into this kind of platform, Amazon, Zalando world? And then I said, omnichannel. Having multiple touch points creates a 1 + 1 = 3 equation. So we are winning, the customer is winning. They want to touch the product. But if you're really looking behind the curtains of omnichannel and see how much effort it is to create this kind of buy online, give it back offline, and how hard it is to really do it well, because even at the companies where it's offered, they don't find your account in the system offline because it was not updated or it's not synced. They cannot give it back with the payment method you have selected first via PayPal. So maybe they don't have the cash on site. Maybe they're not allowed to give you cash for $500 or more. So it's really complicated. It's a really complicated thing, and there's not one omnichannel model worldwide that was able to get market share back from the online platforms. So it's like it always reminds me of the lottery metaphor. Like there's like a lottery winner standing on stage, and maybe there's a nice omnichannel case somewhere. This is a lottery winner standing on stage and telling all the others in the auditorium, I've also lost a lot of money for years playing the lottery. but then I won. Look at me. So this is not a smart strategic
That reminds me
choice.
of a lot of university commencement speeches of like people that have done very well and just say you have to risk everything all the time, right?
It's crazy. So it's not really, omnichannel is not really a smart answer. It can be a good answer for some categories. DIY, for example, I'm a believer in omnichannel experience because transportation costs are so high that you can force people to come to the store and picking up stuff. But for fashion, it's not really the case.
Interesting. And Alex, you've done obviously a lot of interesting things in your career. You started a company that now has, let me look at my notes, between 400 and 500 employees, which is not too bad. And we always ask our guests here, what would be like if you went to your younger self at the beginning of your career and with everything you've learned, what would be that one piece of advice you will give yourself?
So, I read this question before and it's really hard to come up with an answer because I'm wired in a way that I always do what I want to do. So I'm not waiting. And this is kind of my motto, apart from innovate or die, it's like, just do it. So, and one of the learnings is there are no experts. Nobody can do it better. So you don't need to ask like 100 people, how is this working? You can do it yourself, and it's usually a very efficient way, to learn and to find maybe business models that are working. Because while doing things and failing in certain aspects of this doing, you're going to find like success factors, and that really sets you apart. Because only with doing you can adapt. And if one of the pattern is, the only winning pattern in our industry is faster adaptation. It's not being the biggest, it's not being the smartest, it's not being the most distributed, it's not being the heavily financed, it's being the fastest adapter. Because if you're sitting on your PowerPoint charts and thinking about what could be the picnic business model in Spain, especially in Barcelona, for my small drugstore chain, I'm going to do like a session with like 10 experts and do like a market research. You're not winning. The moment you're printing those charts, they're outdated. It's like, go back to the time when Snapchat was invented. So it's still like a very popular app, and it actually came in the market saying, okay, we delete all messages and pictures after 10 seconds the moment the person saw it. And then if we were asked about like, okay, what do you think about this app idea? We said, well, that's ridiculous. Nobody needs it now. It's one of the biggest chat apps.
I don't know.
In the world.
I know it's very big. I don't know who uses it.
But you cannot ask people. You just have to do it. Same with like Temu and Shein. You cannot ask, like, you need to look at the data. It's like 30% of the households in Spain bought it. In Germany alone, we are receiving 400,000 packages per day just from Temu.
Wow.
Like, the numbers are just crazy. So I think I would even more go into the just do things, learn. Nobody can tell you what's gonna change, what's gonna happen. So just learn to adapt. And that's also kind of a very, very, very important learning now for the next generation of like digital managers. Your job will be rendered useless anyway by competition or by AI within the next 2 to 3 years. So you need to learn faster to do the next job, because you anyway have to do like a new job every second or third year. And that's where I see a lot of pushback, because our educational system is made in a way that we're getting our bachelor and then maybe some like professional degree on job, and then we expect that we can harvest this kind of education from there on. But it's like, to be very honest, it's not the case. It's going to be a very, very interesting environment for fast learners and adapters, entrepreneurs. It's an entrepreneur economy from my point of view, and it's going to be a very bad economy for slow learners.
Yes, and I think it's like being proactive instead of being reactive. No, I think that's a big one. So I'll try to summarize briefly. I won't be able to cover everything. We've covered a lot, but just like a few concepts that I've written down that I think are interesting. First of all, I think that it's quite fascinating to see how you've developed your career, not only building a big company, but also having 5 podcasts, and not only about consumer goods or retail or e-commerce, but about energy and even medicine's healthcare. So I thought that was super interesting. 25th company you've started, not too bad. And we talked about composable commerce at the beginning. So going from monolithic, one solution for everything, to composable, which is harder to manage. Like if you're monolithic, if you're a bigger business, it seems like the monolithic solution would be the right one, but then it becomes harder to manage everything because you don't get that level of granularity.
Yes.
Composable commerce, the case in FMCG, you're seeing a lot of demand from the digitalization side. And big change of paradigm in the e-commerce digital world, if you like, or in FMCG, one with Q-commerce coming up, and then with the likes of Picnic as well. So that changes a lot of things. We talked about Europe, US. I thought it was interesting how you said that Europe is more advanced because of more competition in the markets, which makes companies up their game, and also tougher labor laws, higher labor costs, which has pushed more automatization, which in the US sometimes is not necessarily necessary. TikTok, the e-commerce side of TikTok, my guess was 3 billion in sales. The right answer was 100 times that, 300 billion in sales, so not bad. And classic e-commerce Amazon model, the triangle between price, availability, and assortment, that paradigm is being changed by the likes of Temu, in which this less availability, so less quick delivery, but the trade-off, positive trade-off, if you like, is less price. So we want a straight line of assortment and price. Temu, by the way, 1 year in Europe, 80 million, 80, let's emphasize that, 80 million customers. So yeah, with all these fast changes, it's not so much about long-term strategy anymore, but more about adaptation. And FMCG companies should try to do more and probably think less to a point, or overthink less if you like. So Alex, this was amazing. Thanks so much for coming to my office and sharing your knowledge. And again, I'll leave digital liner notes, obviously your profile, which obviously I recommend people to follow on LinkedIn, and also the links to your podcast, etc., and to Spryker's media. So thanks for joining.
Thank you.
And thanks to the listeners as well for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG guys. Have a great day.